In this tutorial, we continue to examine the features of the Dojo Toolkit, specifically looking at controls. Now, the bulk of controls that we're going to want to use for our user interfaces are going to come from Digit, which again is your Dojo widget system. So I'll click on Digit here at Dojo Campus in the Dojo Feature Explorer, and we'll see a large number of widgets that are available here so that we can control our user interface. Now, first of all, we have Layout. Layout is going to allow us to set up some pretty intricate user interfaces using things like content panes or split containers. By clicking on these different demos, we're going to see examples of that, as well as be able to take a look at the HTML. So with your controls and the use of Digit, we see that we have our dojo.require digit and then the appropriate namespace for the element we're using. Now, when you start using digits, you will also need to start using some custom HTML attributes that identify different HTML tags as being digits. So in this case, we're looking at Dojo type is being set equal to the digit.layout.splitContainer, which is what we imported above. Now, all of our digits are going to be using this Dojo type equal and a number of other options depending on the actual digit. Now, once we have this set up as the Dojo type, we'll now be able to reference this element by digit ID. So we could do digit.byId rather than dojo.byId. Okay, so that's taking a look at our layout containers. We also have some other things in here that are going to come in pretty handy. Let's go ahead and take a look at our form controls here. And I'll just go down the list that's on this left-hand side. So first we have a button. We have a number of buttons here. We got a drop-down color palette, a drop-down menu, disabled, checkboxes, simple, toggling, no text label, and radio icon. So I'll just go to the simple, and it's just showing me this click me. And instead I clicked simple. So it actually is behaving a lot like our standard buttons. However, because we're using the digit system, it's giving us this in a standard fashion. Now in our HTML, we see that it's requiring digit.form.button, and then we do a Dojo type declaration for digit.form.button. We also see that it has an on-click event handler here. What we're not seeing here in our HTML is that when we use a digit, we are going to have to include cascading style sheet information and then set the body class to be Tundra. Now, we will see this in our projects whenever we get to our projects in just a little bit, but this is letting you know beforehand, even though the Dojo Campus Feature Explorer is very nice, it doesn't show you everything you need in order to implement your different widgets. I'm going to go ahead and jump down here to another form control here, the filtering select. This is pretty nice because it's pretty close to what a lot of your other Ajax libraries give you in terms of the auto-completer. Now, what this filtering select is it's going to allow me to type into this state list, and depending on what matches, it's going to allow me to select that. And now if I type in something that's not a state, I get this invalid state name. So that's a nice little element there. If I take a look at the text boxes down here, we'll see that we have a number of different validation items for email address, IP, and so forth. Of course, that's not all, because we could create our own regular expressions to do testing. I'm going to go ahead and jump back up here to the date text boxes. If I take a look at the basic, if I click inside of that text box, it gives me this little pop-up. Now, the HTML for that is pretty straightforward. We require the digit.form.date text box, and then on the input, we set it up as a normal text input with its ID and name and so forth. The only difference here is the Dojo type is set to the date text box, and the Dojo Toolkit takes care of the rest. So it's providing us some really nice functionality without having to do a lot of coding. Let's go and take a look at the editor. Now the editor here is going to give us a rich text editor field. So it's got some really nice features here, including bolding, italics, underline, lists, indenting, and alignment. If I take a look at the HTML, you see it's using the digit.editor, and we set up a text area that's using that digit.editor, and here it's pulling in the appropriate style sheet here. And so that's a pretty nice little feature. We also have dialogues. Click Show Dialog, and we get a nice little dialog box which we can then move around and fill out. If I click OK, it tells me it's submitted some information. Now, as you can tell, a lot of our different digits are going to have the same basic form. So if I do my progress bar here and take a look at the manual and just go to the HTML here, I'll see again that we are requiring the appropriate items. So we do dojo.require and then the appropriate namespace. And then down below we have our dojo type set on the division. So it's dojo type equal digit.progressbar. So it's the presence of this dojo type that makes our elements become form controls. So if it involves our digit library, if we're going to implement that in our HTML, our elements must have the dojo type attribute set to the appropriate namespace. And that concludes our basic overview of the controls given to us by Digit.